Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we are going to be learning about LazyVStack. Now, LazyVStack is another vertical stack, and this one is initialized lazily. So first of all, let's understand what lazy keyword in a LazyVStack mean. So you have two kinds of VStacks. Now you have a regular VStack and you have a LazyVStack. Now the difference, like I said, is the lazy keyword that is added, and it actually helps you initialize the child elements lazily. Now, how can you see this? Now, in order to actually experience this, we gotta first create a VStack and see what kind of initialization it has and how that problem actually is solved inside the LazyVStack. Okay, so we're gonna create our VStack first. Now, in order to create a VStack and see all the elements that are assigned to VStack, we gotta wrap it inside a scroll view. So let's go ahead and use a scroll view. And inside the scroll view, we are going to create a just a regular VStack. Okay, and inside the VStack, we're going to create a for each, and this for each is going to basically repeat 100 times. So okay, and essentially what it's going to do is it's going to render 100 child views. Okay, so we are not interested in basically the index, so that's why I'm going to put underscore here. But essentially what we are doing is we are producing 100 child elements, or we are adding 100 child elements into this VStack. And I'm going to use date because it actually gives us a good way to measure the efficiency benefit that we get from LazyVStack. So I'm going to use date.now, and I'm going to format it in a way where date is omitted and time is visible completely. Okay, now with this, what's going to happen is our preview is going to basically render a VStack, and as you can see, the VStack is rendered and all the 100 elements are now loaded. Okay, so let's talk about the benefits of having LazyVStack over VStack. So if you notice, all these elements have been initialized at the same time. So 842.34 first row, and the last row is 842.34. Right, so what happens is basically whenever you are using a VStack, all the child elements, they are rendered all at once in the memory. So if you have 10 elements, all 10 elements will be loaded all at once in the memory and rendered on the screen. Now it is good for 2 or 3 complex items, or up to 10 complex child views. But if you go beyond let's say 20-30 and you have really complex views, you're gonna see performance lag in your app whenever you're using a VStack, because everything is getting initialized right at one time. So that is the problem with VStack. Now, in order to overcome with this problem, we use something called LazyVStack. And the way LazyVStack works is it only initializes the values that are currently displayed on the screen. So it's very similar to how UI table view works in UIKit, where whenever view is about to appear on the screen, and if you are using a reusable identifier inside the table view, it actually will render that view on demand. So in other words, LazyVStack only renders views on demand as they are ready to appear, or they're going to be visible onto the screen. Now, in order to prove that, I'm going to actually, since we have just changed the LazyVStack, I'm going to scroll through this list, and you're going to see the first row was rendered at 844.06. Okay, I'm going to keep scrolling down, and you're going to notice that we have 8:44:58 is when all the other items were rendered. Now, if you notice, there were a lot of items that were rendered at same time, like 8:44:06. The reason is the items, the child view itself is very small. So the way LazyVStack works is it actually estimates how much a user would scroll. So it actually prepares data for up to few additional items. So when user is scrolling, the view is not basically being rendered at that time. You don't want your user to see views rendered and ask them to wait for new content to become available. The better choice is basically have your rows prepared or have your views prepared before user actually scrolls to that content. Okay, so for that reason, it actually pre-computes and sets the values at a point where it thinks that this is where is the perfect moment, where people would scroll, and by the time they reach at this point, it would actually render more. So if you notice, after this, rows are rendered at different intervals, because new content is becoming available as we are scrolling through, and there is only 2 milliseconds of difference between these. Okay, actually 2 seconds of difference, not milliseconds. So hour, minute, and seconds. Yeah, so 2 seconds or single second of difference as we are scrolling, because we are taking our sweet time to scroll. All right, so that is the benefit that you get out of LazyVStack over VStack. So it is always preferred that you use LazyVStack when you're displaying a lot of content, because that is actually more memory efficient. Okay, so hopefully that actually distinguishes the difference between them. There are some more subtle differences, and there are some really good ones that we're going to talk about. So let's go ahead and start tackling them one by one. So one thing you're going to notice is the LazyVStack has this scroll view which appears all the way to the trailing edge, which actually matches the width of the device. Now, reason is because LazyVStack by default covers the entire width. It takes as much width as possible and provided by the parent view. So how is it different from VStack? Well, let's go ahead and check it out. If I change this back to VStack and our preview is loaded, you're going to notice that our scroll indicator is right on the top of the where the content is ending, and that actually proves that the VStack takes only the space needed for its child view to render its content. Now, if you looked at the VStack video, you would remember that we'd have to create basically a large view, a long view, in order to expand the size, the width of the VStack in order to experience the alignment properties. Well, in case of LazyVStack, we don't have to do that, because LazyVStack automatically takes over the entire width of the screen. That means whenever we apply the alignment property, it actually automatically aligns the content to according to the alignment guidance. So in this case, alignment guidance is align everything on the leading edge. And as you can see, all of our views are not, they're no big or small, they're same size and they're still aligned properly. So basically you don't have to set anything extra in order to gain this functionality to align your elements leading or trailing edges. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the trailing as well, just for the completion sake. So you're gonna see all the views are gonna align at the trailing, and by default it's all aligned as center alignment. Okay, now that's basically one sort of difference. Spacing works exactly as it works in the VStack, where you define the spacing and all the child views basically add that spacing between them. So whatever spacing you define, it actually is added. It is still a container view, meaning you can set a single modifier over the container, and all the child views, as long as they are not overriding it, they'll actually inherit that change. Okay, so as you can see now, title has font of the text view is now at the title font size. Okay, so all of them are increased, and if you notice, our rendering of the views has also changed. Now, not many views are initialized at the same time, but only enough that we can actually scroll through. Okay, so those are some of the things about LazyVStack. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about additional properties that LazyVStack actually provides, or additional benefit that it actually has. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the initializer for the LazyVStack, and you're gonna notice that we have the alignment, we have spacing, and we have pinned views. Now this is something new. This is something that we don't have in VStack, but this is something we have in the LazyVStack, so that's different. Content is basically the same. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, content is same. So let's go ahead and talk about the pinned views. So the pinned views is basically it allows you to pin certain views at the header and the footer for the VStack. Okay, for the LazyVStack. So we can actually say we want to use pinned views. Okay, and pinned views takes basically an array, and you can actually define two things in this array. You can define a section footer or section header. You can actually have both of them essentially displayed here. Okay, so how does that work? Well, inside the scroll view, when you have the scroll view, you can actually have sections inside basically being displayed that actually divide your content in different sections or groups. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our sections first. Okay, so what we're gonna do is inside the for each, okay, we're gonna create a section. All right, and section takes content, it takes title and content, it takes content and footer, it takes content header, and content header and footer. Okay, so there are a few variations that are available. So let's go ahead and choose the one that takes the content header and footer value. Okay, so we're gonna basically put our, in the content we're gonna put our date back. Okay, and for the header we're gonna simply create a view. And let's go ahead and create a footer. All right, now let's go ahead and set some formatting. So first of all, let's set the font as subheadline. Okay, so we're gonna basically set the font for our header and footer. Now, if you notice that each of the value is divided into its own section. Okay, so what's happening is we have created 100 sections, and each time has its own basically each time entry has its own section. I wanted to show you basically how you can see the different sections in this. That's why we actually created this way. But the better way to create section is basically by moving the for each inside it. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And we will need basically this. Okay, so there is extra curly brace. So let's go ahead and remove this, format our code a little bit, and let's see if we get a better experience. So now if you notice that we have a header for overall VStack, and if we go all the way down, we have a footer. Now we can actually apply some more modifiers to sort of format this header and footer that we are seeing a little bit better. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna set the background. Okay, and let's go ahead and set the background color as orange, and we're gonna see basically that difference being here. And before that, we're gonna actually add some padding first of all, and also we're gonna add a frame, and inside the frame we can actually say set the max width as infinity, which is gonna help us basically extend this view edge to edge. So as you can see now, our section header is looking a little bit better. I don't like the body, so let's go ahead and change the body font, and let's go ahead and change this. So our section header is going to have a title font, and the content is going to have the body font. Okay, so this is looking a little bit better, right? And I'm going to take the same modifiers. I'm going to apply it here, but we are going to basically change this to a teal color. Okay, so our footer is gonna basically have the teal color. Okay, so we have this teal color, which is not looking that great. So let's go ahead and change it to orange as well. Okay, so now if you notice that whenever we are scrolling our view, our header is basically disappearing. Okay, our header is not sticking to the top of the view. Now what if we want to actually have our header stick to basically top of the view while we are scrolling, so it doesn't scroll away, and we would know which section we are in. Essentially this case we only have one section, so but we still love to know which section we are in, and that's where this pinned view comes into picture. So pinned views, if we change that, or if we add that and say the section headers are going to be pinned onto the view. Now let's go ahead and check it out, how this actually changes. So notice that our section header will always be visible regardless of the scrolling state. So our content is scrolling, but our header is basically sticky at the top. Now you can achieve the same result for your footer by pinning the footer as well. Okay, so this is going to change our behavior a bit. So our header and footer are now basically sticky, and they're always going to be visible, and our content offset is going to be adjusted to display the whole content. But notice that we always have this information about when we'll which section we are in and what is the footer. So that's what the benefit that pinned views provide, and pinned views is only available inside the VStack and not in the LazyVStack. Alright, so I've got the simulator up and running, and as you can see that here the view looks completely different than what is being displayed into the canvas. So this is a bug that I found basically on the canvas where sometimes it doesn't represent the most recent state, and this is basically our app that is being rendered here. So you can basically essentially apply the same formatting that you applied on the text, but this time we are applying it on the VStack. And since we have a small number of views that we need to render, we don't really have to worry too much about the content being rendered because this is a small amount of content. So we can actually nest VStack inside LazyVStack. So now as you can see, our content is scrolling much more nicely. Now the other way that I was telling you, where you can adjust is by adding the offset. So you can offset your content or view a little bit more depending upon in the X and Y value, depending upon how you want to adjust it. And we can actually offset our content or this text view on the Y-axis to add basically 10 more points. And what it should do is it should basically move our DevTech courses title a little bit below, so it's closer to the edge itself. Okay, so now you can see that our header, section header, is looking much better. Okay, and basically you can do something similar with the footer view as well. So we can actually take our footer view and let's go ahead and copy this. So I'm gonna copy this, and you can very well put it inside a view that essentially displays this information. And I'm gonna actually remove all these. There you go. And this time around, yeah, I'm gonna remove all these. Okay, so let's go ahead and first check it out how our view looks, and then we're gonna basically adjust a few things. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna remove the spacer. We don't need the filler because we want our content to appear at the center. The other thing that we're gonna remove is the height. So let's go ahead and settle on the default height, whichever the content height is. Okay, so it's gonna reduce that width a little bit, and then we're gonna basically set this as vertical edges. So vertical meaning your top edge and your bottom edge. So as you can see now, our footer and header are nicely tucked in at the edge of the screen. And basically this information is additional information about your view that we are actually sort of displaying here, and we can actually still let our user scroll through the content, and our content is still being displayed nicely. All right, so those are all the things that I wanted to show you about the LazyVStack. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and this is it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to check out devtechie.com for more content. Thank you.